Welcome to everyone joining us in person and online teams for the Warfare Center-wide Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month observance. I'm Captain Clint Hoskins, Commanding Officer of Naval Undersea Warfare Center Division Keyport. In 1992, Congress established May as the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, expanding what had previously been known as Asian and Pacific American Heritage Week. In 2021, a presidential proclamation further expanded this to include Native Hawaiians. The theme for this May's observance is Advancing Leaders Through Opportunity. Here are a few interesting facts in regards to Asian American and Pacific Islander representation in our nation and federal workforce, according to the latest Census Bureau. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders make up approximately 6% of the federal workforce. Asian Americans make up approximately 7% of the U.S. population. Hawaii, Washington, and Nevada are the three states with the highest percentage of their population identified as being Asian American. In addition to these figures, approximately 7% of new Keyport's workforce identifies as Asian or Pacific Islander. We have a great program for you today. I'd like to first thank Edward Ingres, the Asian American Pacific Islander Special Emphasis and Employment Program Manager and the Equal Employment Opportunity Team for putting on today's event. I would also like to thank Mr. Jeffrey Coe, member of the Senior Executive Service and the Division Technical Director at Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division, who is joining us today on Teams for being our keynote speaker for today's observance. Finally, I would like to welcome Fair Winds Production. These musicians will provide a short history of themselves, followed by some background on the Polynesian migration from New Zealand to Hawaii and other various islands, and a hula dance accompanied by traditional music. So with that, I will introduce Mr. Jeffrey Coe. Mr. Coe serves as the Division Technical Director for Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division. As the senior civilian, he is responsible for the civilian's technical capabilities, program planning, technical authority, workforce development, and strategic investments in support of in-service engineering, test and evaluation, and integrated product support for the surface warfare combat weapons and systems. Mr. Coe began his civil service career in 1989, joining the Mark 41 vertical launching system in the Systems Engineering Branch at Port Hueneme. Mr. Coe has held multiple leadership positions in the federal workforce during his over 30 years of experience. He holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and a master's degree in systems architecture and engineering. He maintains a level 3 DWIA certification in engineering and is a vital member of the professional acquisition community. Please join us in welcoming Mr. Jeffrey Coe.
Good morning, everybody. So first off, I just wanted to say thanks to my friends in Keyport and Point Mugu for asking me to participate in this great event. And I see we have some great entertainment in Keyport scheduled after me, so I'm excited to see the performance and trying to support and represent, so I'm wearing my Aloha attire today. I've attended many of these monthly celebrations, and I'll tell you, I've learned so much about people, history, culture, and the barriers that folks have overcome or are still overcoming. And it's very inspirational to me. And as I think about AAPI month, I just feel a great sense of pride that our nation spotlights different cultures and groups each month, as well as the many individuals that represent the diverse makeup of our great country. Events such as these are so important because as we learn about each other and our cultures, we become stronger as a nation and heal the divisions in our society that I fear have worsened in recent years. When I was first asked to be your speaker today, my knee-jerk reaction was just to say no. And I actually did. I didn't understand why I was being asked. I didn't understand what I had to offer you today. I thought to myself, I certainly had not had to overcome some of the difficult or arduous situations that others have had to endure. Then I started reading more about the theme, advancing leaders through opportunity. And then I thought, maybe I do have something to actually say. So I contacted the point of contact and I said, hey, let's do this, right? So here I am today. So a little bit about myself. As I've mentioned, I've been to many of these events and I've heard some great stories of people immigrating from various parts of the world, looking for better opportunities or trying to escape some very, very bad situations. I myself immigrated here to Ventura County from Los Angeles County, probably 60 miles south of here. The community I grew up in was mostly made up of Latino white population. There were maybe 4 or 5 other Japanese American kids in my school, and 3 of them were my siblings. And as you might imagine, my experience at a young age was all about being the only in the class. Growing up, I found myself thrust into a position where I was a representative of the entire Asian culture to many of my peers, entertaining many questions about my culture and even being the butt of many jokes, which wasn't very fun. Now, don't get me wrong, right? I had a great childhood and made some great friends that I still have today, but it didn't come without challenges. Sometimes adapting was all about using my survival skills. Being the only, I got picked on a lot, got into a lot of fights just to stand up for myself, probably why I joined wrestling in high school. But I look back and all these experiences, as well as the way I was raised, really shaped me into the person I am today. My parents, they also grew up in LA and were actually incarcerated in the Japanese internment camps in the 1940s, which is a whole different story. And I talked to a lot of my elders, grandparents, aunts, uncles when they were alive about their experiences in camp, and I found that most really didn't want to talk about what they went through. Rather than being upset or angry, there was a more sense of shame and embarrassment for some reason, which looking back probably shaped the way I was brought up and how I was taught to think. I mean, here were people that had jobs, homes, land, property, and in a moment's notice were told to pack up what they could, sell what they could, and be shipped out, never to get their land or goods back, having to start all over again after being released from these camps. Imagine one day you're in your own home, coming home from work, and within weeks, you're in an internment camp. And I've even seen pictures of men, right, going to the bathroom, sitting down, doing their business, side by side without stalls, just rows of toilets. Just an incredible thought. My grandfather was a Buddhist minister. One of the few stories I heard from my dad was remembering the time that my father called my grandmother from church. My grandmother was at home, my grandfather was at church. It was the day they took him away. You see, the FBI at that time, they rounded up those that they thought were influential in society, the religious leaders, teachers, and others, those they feared could start a riot or cause problems. They were actually taken away and located from everyone else, a location not mentioned in the textbooks today. Imagine being taken away, not knowing if you will see your loved ones again, and asking your spouse, hey, take care of the kids, I love you, I'll see you when I see you. My father didn't see his dad for several years. Imagine not seeing your kids or parents for 2 or 3 years. Worse, not knowing where they are or even if they're alive. Compare that time today, right? We have the luxury of cell phones. My daughter, she goes to school in New York City, and I'm texting her every day, or at a minimum tracking her. Hopefully she's not watching this, right? But that really just brings me comfort knowing that she's okay and where she is. Imagine not having that luxury. Stories about that time in our nation's history could go on for hours. But let's talk a little bit about the culture that I grew up. And probably I'm hoping some of you out there can relate. So first off, right, how many of you grew up hearing the phrases like, children should be seen, not heard, or speak when you're spoken to, or listen to your elders, they are right, don't talk back, things like that, right? And I'll tell you, all qualities my kids didn't quite embrace growing up. But thinking back, they're probably better for it, and I'll explain why later. But anybody out there, right, I assume these phrases are familiar to some of you. So imagine those phrases and ways of thinking embedded into you from a very early age, very tough to break. Right? Be in silence to make way for those that are older. These learned thoughts don't go away on your 18th birthday either. For me, these instilled thoughts stuck with me a long time, right? And it took years of retraining and practice to overcome some of my learned thinking and behavior. Whether a person was older, higher status, or just different, I always thought it was very disrespectful to speak up. This brings me to another point, being different, being the only in the room. I thought that being the only meant I was just different than everybody else. That the only thing others saw was that I was not in their likeness, that my appearance and thoughts were too different to offer meanings to others. But it took me well into my adulthood to understand how wrong my thinking was. You see, being the only meant I brought a different perspective to the room that no one else had. Your words are, your thoughts are, your experiences are, all different but yet important. I learned that my voice did matter, regardless of who was in the room. I learned that I possessed skills, experience, and knowledge that were valuable and unique, regardless of someone's age or status. Now, there's certainly a balance between fitting in and embracing your own authenticity, but there's nothing wrong with understanding the fact, that you're authentic and you bring your own perspectives on things. I look back and I realize it was difficult for me to push back against those that were senior to me, to disagree, to tell them they were wrong or they made a wrong decision. I could even remember one time when I was a young engineer, right, doing a presentation in front of the captain and the entire executive staff about some investigation that I was executing. And I remember the captain just dressed me down in front of everybody. Now, I had all the facts, right? And we were on a good path. And had I been quick enough or had the initial reaction to push back, right then and there, I really had the opportunity to diligently let him know that he was incorrect. We were actually on the right path to success. But I didn't say anything. I just allowed him to dress me down. And boy, sometimes I think about that. I still kick myself for not just being able to react quick enough. I mean, how many times have you experienced situations when you're in a mall or a shopping center or somewhere and someone says something rude to you and you just kind of freeze, right? And then you think 5 or 10 minutes later, oh, I should have said something, right? And I knew exactly what I should say, but it was too late. It was 10 minutes later, right? Some people have no problem reacting to the moment, right? Why is that? Is it culture, upbringing? I think for me, it was a little combination, of everything. Another topic, expectation. How many of you out there were raised with the idea that the only grades that we could bring home were A+ and A's, right? That an A-, a B, and God forbid a C was brought home, and that was really called an Asian F. There's got to be some of you out there. I can't be the only one. If I brought home a 97, the question was, what happened to the other 3%? Am I right? Now, we may laugh about this now, but what it shows is that my parents, maybe your parents, were focused on perfection. The 3% that was missed versus the recognition of what was already achieved. Now, don't get me wrong. My parents were not tough on me at all. I was the third child. They were lucky that I just came home, right? Hoping the best for me. And I just know, for me, it's a good thing I went to public school. But all kidding aside, while this strive for perfection instilled the value of hard work, it failed to acknowledge the work, the effort, the trying that I did put in, the barriers I had to overcome, or the context I was operating in. As I think about it, this part of my upbringing trained me to focus on my shortcomings, my failures, which rather took my focus off building upon my successes, that 97%. It can be paralyzing on a career to sit there and just dwell about things that you did wrong. And I'll tell you, oftentimes I think about work and what I could have done better. Not all bad. You certainly need to reflect on how you could be better the next day, all the time. But when I learned how to focus on my successes and processes to get there, especially how to focus on what was achieved instead of what was not, it was empowering. I'm reading this book now, The Gift of Imperfection. Just the title of the book and that very concept resonated with me. So how does everything I mentioned apply to this year's theme? For me, and bottom line, it's all about creating that space where everybody can reach their full potential. The Federal Asian Pacific American Council deemed Advancing Leaders Through Opportunity as a theme for this year's AAPI celebration. They said that opportunity is defined as a set of circumstances that make it possible to do something. That opportunity can be built, it can be accessed, it can be achieved, or it can be given. So let's talk about some of these things. Let's talk first about how opportunities can be built. As leaders, bottom line, I think it's our responsibility to keep creating and building opportunities for others to succeed and reach their full potential. An example, we recently built an opportunity earlier this year when PhD hosted a Women in Motion event where we hosted female senior executives, some of the most effective leaders in the United States Navy, who told us their stories and offered mentoring to others on how to achieve great things in their careers. NAVSEA, as well as NAVAIR, is going to continue holding these events in the future. Just a great thing overall. Now, I think the Navy continues to do a great job of building programs that support the development of skills necessary to not only compete for positions, but succeed in them. The JLL program, mentoring programs, the Bridging the Gap programs are just a few examples. Locally at PhD, we continue to build partnerships with our local colleges and universities to not only provide opportunities to local students, but to fill our pipelines as an organization as well. As leaders, I believe it's our responsibility to develop programs that are accessible for everyone at all levels, to create opportunities for people to grow in a profession and build winning teams that allow individuals to reach their full potential. Let's talk about opportunity can be achieved. I'm reading this other great book titled Mindset from Carol Dweck. She talks about two types of mindsets: having a fixed mindset, those that believe their abilities are fixed, and having that growth mindset, believing that abilities can be developed. Now look, if I can achieve what I've achieved in my career, certainly I think anybody out there could, right? But in all seriousness, it may take someone to tap you on the shoulder to let you know it's your turn to step up, or your turn to apply for certain jobs. And for me, that's really what it took. But I was also told you have to believe in your abilities, and more importantly, your ability to grow. The sky's the limit for anybody out there. Just getting out of your comfort zone is okay. What's the saying? Comfort is the enemy of progress. Anything can be achieved. You just have to embrace yourself, your authenticities, and keep growing. Have that growth mindset. As leaders, again, I believe it's our responsibility to not only provide opportunities, but to also identify and break down the barriers that prevent people from giving their best to support our warfighters. At PhD, I try to talk to various members of each of our special emphasis groups. I try really hard to understand their challenges and barriers, and each of them are different, so I can help address them and break them down and break down the roadblocks that are in the way. The goal is to also give the SEGs a platform to form meaningful connections and represent their groups on command efforts, which will elevate their voice in our spaces and depreciate biases that may be barriers for them to reach their full potential. Everyone deserves an opportunity regardless of their background, disability, identity, life situations, or beliefs. So those are some of my thoughts. I think what has helped me in my career is that somewhere along the way, I realized I've been awarded this opportunity to look at everything through a different lens, through a different set of lenses, and understand the nuance that comes with the perspective I learned of my own culture. Today, I feel grateful that I'm at the point in my life where I realize I can have my own experiences and be proud of who I am. But as I mentioned before, it didn't come without challenges. Now, I can use my experiences and skills to help advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace and beyond. As we talk about the theme of this event, for me, just the acknowledgement that everyone has a story, that everyone is authentic, that everyone has challenges they are facing every single day internally is humbling. Not a single person out there has that perfect life or is from the same formula as we are, and that's okay. From my perspective, everyone has barriers of some sort to overcome. It's our job, it's our job to absorb these lessons in those, see them through a different lens, and empower and enable people to take the opportunities they are entitled to. The opportunity to learn from each other, the opportunity to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, the opportunity to help and support each other, and the opportunity to enable each other to be their very best. We need to stay focused on that. Advancing leaders to opportunity is this year's theme. It's very important. And we do this ensuring opportunity is there for everyone to take so they can develop, grow, and become great at what they do. Because our warfighters need us to be the very best we can, so that when they call upon us, we are there for them. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I look forward to engaging with you all soon. Have a great Navy Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crow, for the awesome speech. And again, sorry for the technical difficulties. Next up, we will have an awesome performance by Makai Gio. We're going to go a little bit over. So again, hopefully y'all have no hard stop at 11. And on that note, fine.
Good morning and aloha. My name is Kimo. My lovely bride is Lokelina. We are the band Makani A. We're originally from Hawaii and have performed all over the world, sharing our culture of Hawaii. Mahalo and thank you for joining. Well, May is known to be the American, Asian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are an integral part of society and have contributed to politics, medicine, aviation, entertainment, sports, and of course, the military in the United States. In 1978, Congress passed a resolution creating Asian Pacific American Heritage Week, and in 1992, the observance was expanded to the month of May, timed to coincide with two important milestones in Asian Pacific American history: the arrival of the first Japanese immigrants in the United States, which happened on May 7th, 1843, and the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, which happened on May 10th, 1869, of which the majority of the workers who laid the tracks were Chinese immigrants. To help celebrate and educate you about these contributions, we offer the following presentation. We'll talk about some of the Pacific Islander peoples, the possible migration routes, and the similarities and differences between the Pacific Islanders. And since we are from Hawaii, we'll feature various parts of the Hawaiian culture. So let us begin with what is a Pacific Islander? Next slide. Pacific Islanders are referred to those origins or the original peoples of Polynesia, Micronesia, and Melanesia. Polynesia includes Hawaii, Samoa, American Samoa, Tokelau, Tahiti, and Tonga. Micronesia includes Guam, Mariana Islands, Saipan, Palau, Yap, Chuuk, Pohnpei, Kashraya, and the Marshall Islands and Kiribati. Melanesia includes places like Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, and Vanuatu. Here's some few fun facts. The total Native American and other Pacific Islander population is 1.6 million residents in the U.S. and about 27.1% of the population of Hawaii. There are 353,000 Native Hawaiian residents in the U.S., followed by 243,682 Samoans and 142,516 Guamanians or Chamorros. The median age of the Pacific Islanders in the U.S. is 30, and greater than 2 out of 10 have a bachelor's degree or higher, and about 9 out of 10 have high school diploma or equivalent.
Frank.
Of these Pacific Islander groups, each follows their own customs, traditions, and lifestyle. They have their own language, music, dances, and foods too. Within these groups, however, there are some recognizable similarities, primarily due to the transmigration of these groups. It was originally thought that the Polynesian migration came up through New Zealand, but is now commonly accepted that the Polynesian culture emerged in Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga from the earlier Lapita culture, which has formed from the mixing of the Melanesian peoples already living in and near Oceania and the migrants from the vicinity of Taiwan, and even as far south and west from Australia. Now considered to be the birthplace of Polynesia, in ancient times, Raiatea was known as Hawaii, meaning the homeland, a sacred name in Polynesian culture and related to the names of Hawaii, Savaii in Samoa, and Hawaiki, the ancient name for Whakarava in the Tuamotu. According to recent findings, the Society Islands were colonized from Samoa and Tonga around 200 BC, about the same time as the Marquesas. Together they formed the heart of Polynesia, and thus the springboard for settlement of Hawaii, New Zealand, and Mangareva. A major ancestor who lived on the island was Azho Mairangi, who was the protector of the Tapu Tapu Atea Marae. 9 independent tribal principalities emerged, which in turn subdivided into individual clans. This led to a strictly stratified social pattern. Society was divided into several separate social levels. At the top were the Ariki or Arii, later in Hawaii known as Alii, and the noble chiefs whose claim to leadership was legitimized by their descent from the founding ancestors. Raiatea is home to the largest marae in Polynesia called Tapu Tapu Atea, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is a large complex located on the southeastern coast of Raiatea. The site features a number of marae and other stone structures and was once considered the central temple and religious center of Eastern Polynesia. The marae is a communal or sacred place that serves religious and social purposes in Polynesian societies. In all these languages, it also means cleared and free of weeds or trees. A marae generally consists of an area cleared of land roughly rectangular, the marae itself, bordered with stones or wooden posts called ao in Tahitian, and perhaps with the pai terraces, which were traditionally used for ceremonial purposes, and in some cases, a central stone, ahu or ao. In tropical Polynesia, most marae were destroyed or abandoned with the arrival of Christianity in the 19th century. Nevertheless, the place where the marae were built are still considered tapu or tabu in Hawaiian, or sacred in most cultures. Here we show Tapu Tapu Atea on the island of Raiatea, stretching out to the other island groups like the tentacles of an octopus. A festival commemorates this migration every year in July. Also known as the 9 tentacles of the octopus sliding on the ocean, the festival traces the history of Polynesian migration and proves the links that remain between the different peoples and the sacred island of Hawaii. The octopus mentioned in the title of the festival is also a symbol of advanced knowledge and navigation. The Polynesians are the first to have crossed the oceans over long distances without instruments, simply with the help of large double-hulled canoes with sails. The migration of Polynesians in the Pacific being represented here by the octopus body, representing the islands of Raiatea, and the migratory flows to populate the other islands, here represented by the tentacles, retracing the sea routes used. Great skill and courage was needed to sail across vast stretches of open sea. Often these voyages would take months to complete. Voyages were accomplished in large double-hulled canoes. The addition of sails to these Polynesian vessels gave them more power and allowed the canoes to travel much faster and further with the paddles. 2 hulls gave them stability and seaworthiness. The space or platform between the parallel canoes allowed for storage of food and water and other tools and items they would need along the way. These vessels were usually from 20 to 33 meters long and would carry over 100 people. These skilled navigators used techniques such as celestial navigation by the stars, observation of birds, ocean swells, and wind patterns, as well as relying on a large body of knowledge from oral tradition, often in the form of song or chant. Here we see some minor similarities with some of the common words. An example, in Hawaii, we say aloha. In Samoa, talofa. Other examples, there will be a letter substitution. An example of this is the Kealakekiki Channel in Hawaii that means the way to Tahiti. Ke is the, ala, way, ka, to, and kahiki is Tahiti. In Tahitian, it would be said Te Ala Tahiti Channel. In Hawaii, a home is hale. In Samoa, it is fale. In Tahitian, fare. And Maori is ware. There are only 12 letters in the Hawaiian language. The vowels are pronounced similarly to the vowels in the Spanish language. Plus, we have 2 symbols. Remember that the Hawaiian, along with all other Polynesian Islander languages, were originally only a spoken language. Nothing was written down. So when these languages were discovered and heard by Westerners and began to be written, but often written phonetically, including the symbols to signify how it was pronounced. The first symbol is an okina and has a similar function as a glottal stop. Primarily, it separates vowels. You can see by the second symbol in the Hawaiian language is a kahako. Its function is to elongate or stretch out the sound of a vowel. The example here is the name of the huge dormant volcano on the island of Maui, Haleakala, and we say Haleakala. Remember that some of our words, hale was house, of, ka, the, and la is sun in Hawaiian. In Tonga, the dance is called laka laka and is a blend of choreography, oratory, along with a vocal instrumental polyphony. The word laka laka means to step briskly or carefully. The men usually dance in rapid and energetic movements, while the women execute graceful dance steps coordinated with elegant hand gestures. Both groups clap and sing as they move, and a chorus often provides vocal accompaniment. The kailau is danced by the men bearing clubs, and a dance in a fierce manner that emulates fighting to the accompaniment of beaten drums. It is performed without singing. The kailau is a war dance, and the laka laka and the ma ulu ulu dances are performed by standing or seated groups. Samoan dance is the poetry of people. Traditionally, choreography comes from a place and custom, and the dance tells a story of cultural values and celebrates simple events. They are graceful, exuberant, comic, and emblematic of one of the oldest cultures in Polynesia. The dances include the siva. Slow and fluid, the siva is graceful storytelling dance that is traditionally performed by young women. Fa'ataupati is a fast, energetic slap dance. The fa'ataupati is performed by men wearing traditional lava lava and the women wearing a pulutasi, a two-piece garment. Siva afi is a spectacular fire dance. The young men twirl a large knife with burning flames at both ends around their bodies to the beat of a wooden drum. In Tahiti, there are four main styles of dance: the otea, aparima, iwanao, and the pa'oa. The otea is regarded as the most traditional form in Tahiti. It has fast, hip-shaking movements along with soft, elegant arm movements, heavy with Tahitian drums. The aparima is a more sensuous and slower dance. The heaving now and the pa'o is a more modern style, usually with several dancers sitting in a circle, tapping their thighs, and using swift arm and hand motions. Let us also consider our cousins a little further south, specifically the New Zealand Maori group. The haka is a ceremonial Maori war dance or challenge. The hakas are usually performed in a group and represent a display of the tribe's pride, strength, and unity. The haka were originally performed by warriors before a battle, proclaiming their strength and prowess in order to intimidate the opposition. The actions include stomping of the feet, protrusion of the tongue, rhythmic body slapping, as well as chanted words. A variety of exclamations are used. The haka may be understood as a kind of symphony in which different parts of the body represent many different instruments: the hands, the arms, legs, feet, voice, eyes, tongue, and the body as a whole combine to express courage, annoyance, joy, or other feelings relevant to the purposes of the occasion. Another traditional Maori dance is called the poi and uses gentle and graceful movements. Only women dance the poi. The poi is a Maori word for ball on a string. The poi is an object or theatrical prop used for dexterity play or object manipulation. As a performance art, poi involves swinging tethered weights through a variety of rhythmic or geometric patterns. Now, these are just some of the Hawaiian dance implements used for dancing hula, the dance of Hawaii. Lokelina will demonstrate each of these implements. We begin with the ili ili, the smooth, flat rocks. The dancer taps the stones together as part of the rhythm and the dance. Next, we have the uli uli, the feathered adorned rattle gourd used by both male and female dances, usually in a high-paced rhythmic performances.
Hey.
Next, the pu'ili, the split bamboo, used for the accompaniment of hula, tapped on the shoulders, arms, legs, or on itself. Next, we present the ipu, the hollowed out gourd used to provide a beat for the hula dancing. The kala'au is usually about 10 inches to a foot long and comes in pairs. They are struck together to make a clicking sound in stick dancing. Finally, the puniu, or the coconut shells, an ancient rhythm instrument used in developing rhythm, coordination, and musical expressions. Thank you. Mahalo, Lokelina. Having grown up in Hawaii, hula was more than just a dance. It was a way of life. It was the way to be united as a people, a way to share the culture, and a way to share our lineage, beliefs, and even religion. Hula is a Hawaiian dance form accompanied by chant called oli, or song called mele. The hula dramatizes or portrays the words of the oli or mele in a visual dance form. It is a storytelling dance. A hula school is called a halau, while the hula teacher is the kumu. There are two main types of the hula in Hawaii. Ancient hula, as performed before Western encounters with Hawaii, called the kahiko. It is accompanied by chant and traditional instruments. The hula kahiko is a sensuous, mimetic Hawaiian dance performed by sitting or standing with undulating gestures to implements or chant. Originally, the hula was a religious dance performed by trained dancers before the king or ordinary people to honor the gods or to praise the chiefs. The women wore skirts, pa'u, and the men wore tapa loincloths, malo. Lokelina will now demonstrate chant.
E ho mai, e ho mai, e ho mai, kai ke mai luna mai e. O na mea huna no e ao na mele. E ho mai, e ho mai. E ho mai, e ho mai, e ho mai, kai ke mai luna mai e. O na mea huna no e o na mele. E ho mai, e ho mai, e ho mai. Grant us knowledge from above, the things of knowledge hidden in the chants. Grant us these things.
Mahalo, thank you so much. Moving on, the awana hula, or modern style hula, sometimes uses the implements we showed you as well. The hula awana, a word that means to wander or drift, is accompanied by song and Western influenced musical instruments such as the guitar, bass, and of course the ukulele. In the early 1800s, missionaries compelled the women to replace their hula skirts with long dresses. The resulting loss of sensuality in the dance was balanced in the music compensation, under which influence of hymns or the 2 or 3 note scale of the Hawaiian chant. Further modification of the hula came when the Portuguese sailors introduced a small 4-string instrument from which the ukulele developed. The contemporary hula tells a story or describes a place through sinuous movements of the limbs and hips. Costumes may be skirts of raffia, fresh cut tea leaves, or even bright cellophane. We're going to bring Lokelina out again to dance a hula awana. The song Hanalei Moon talks of the beauty of Hanalei on the island of Kauai. Because the words are in English, you will be able to see the story being told and unfolded with the movements of her hands. When you see on a lay by light, you will be in heaven by the sea. Every breeze, every wave will whisper, you are mine. Go away. On a lay moon is lighting, beloved, Hawaii. On a lay moon, aloha, go bow me away. Aloha, go bow me away. On a lay moon. Thank you so much, Lokelina. Mahalo for that. The Hawaiian Islands are easily the most unique place on Earth. In addition to its fascinating and yet tumultuous history, the Hawaiian culture has been shaped and influenced by a variety of people over the course of several centuries. Hawaii is the most isolated population on Earth. That is why Hawaii was relatively barren before the discovery by the Western world. Some native plants were introduced to the Hawaiian Islands naturally, meaning they arrived by wind, wave, and wing. Some seeds were light enough to be picked up and transported by wind currents. Plant parts that were buoyant used wave currents that drift to the islands and washed up on shore. And birds carrying seeds or berries in their system or carrying seeds among their feathers might transport them as they arrive in the islands by flight, usually blown off course by a strong storm. Early on, only about once every 100,000 years, a new plant made a lucky landfall and established itself in the young, isolated Hawaiian Islands, originally devoid of plant life. The early Polynesian voyagers who arrived in Hawaii between around 500 to 800 AD brought plants with them that they needed for food, such as breadfruit, taro, banana, and sweet potato. Later, after the discovery of Captain Cook, a vast number of plants and trees were introduced from all corners of the earth by many sailing ships traversing the globe. King Kamehameha had a vision much like that of the United States to form one nation out of the 13 colonies. Born in 1758, he conquered all the separate island kingdoms to unify the islands and became the great ruler for many decades. Hawaii continued to be ruled by his descendants and relatives until 1893. Kamehameha, meaning the lonely one, was raised and trained as a warrior chief under the feudal political system of the time. Loyal to the ways of his ancestors, he ruled as a just lawgiver and served as a role model by example. He had many children from various unions, although only a few of the unions were of royal blood. Many Pacific Islanders utilized the lei, which are neck garlands sewn with flowers, nuts, shells, or other items as adornments and celebratory gifts and to show honor, respect, and love. In ancient Hawaii, wearing the lei represented wealth, royalty, and rank. To properly get rid of a lei, return it to where it came from by hanging it on a tree limb or burying it in the ground of your backyard. If you wish to send it in the ocean, unstring it first and then send the flowers and leaves into the waves. And now, since we are from Hawaii and featuring some of the traditional items of our homeland, I get to talk about my favorite subject, food. Many of the traditional Hawaiian foods you'll see here didn't necessarily originate in Hawaii. Now, starting at the top, kalua pua'a, or the pig cooked in an underground oven, was traditionally a food enjoyed by the Hawaiians. They also had chickens and purple yams, but lomi salmon was actually brought by the sailors in the form of dried fish. They were rehydrated by soaking it in water and massaging it. Long rice is a noodle dish with its roots in China. All of the various islands and Hawaiian foods have a diverse demographic of ethnicities. There remains a vibrant following of favorites. Poi, a Hawaiian staple, is a thick paste made from taro root. It is steamed and then pounded into a paste with a pudding-like consistency. It has a unique flavor. It has a starchy and slightly sour taste from the light fermentation in the preparation process. It can take some getting used to, as it is an acquired taste. However, for a beginner, it is most delicious when used as a condiment to cut the richness of the kalua pork or laulau. Laulau is usually made with pork wrapped in layers of taro leaves and cooked in an underground oven until soft and smoky flavored. The meat is a very tender and the leaves turn to a spinach-like consistency. You may now even see laulau with chicken, fish, or even vegetables inside. Kalua, which means the pit, is a traditional pig cooked in an underground oven known as an imu. The pork slowly roasts and becomes extremely tender, also retaining a smoky flavor. Kalua pig is similar to southern pulled pork, but instead of the addition of a tangy barbecue sauce, it has a pungent wood smoke flavor, and it goes great on a big pile of sticky rice. Poke is the Hawaiian version of Japanese sashimi, or raw fish. Usually made from the ahi tuna, it is served in bite-sized chunks marinated in shoyu, Hawaiian soy sauce, onion, sesame, and limu, or Hawaiian seaweed. Lomi salmon is cured with salt and diced up along with tomatoes, onions, and sometimes a little chili pepper. Chicken long rice is a combination of clear mung bean noodles and cooked in chicken broth, flavored with the chicken meat and a little ginger. And now it is time for us to say farewell. I hope that this has given you a peek into our culture and a glimpse of Polynesia as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Until we meet again, hui ho, e malama pono, and aloha.
Thank you for that awesome performance. Again, more applause. And first for last, we have our final comments from Mr. Slater, Technical Director of Keyport.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you to Kimo and Loke Lena for your performance. Learned a lot about the culture. I don't know how I would ever hold those rocks in my hand. It's like not something. I think it'd take a lot of practice. But thank you so much, and also for Jeff Coe, the TD down at Fort Hueneme, for giving us his some of his life story and experiences. So I'm Mike Slater. I'm the acting technical director here at Keyport. I just want to take a few minutes and talk about some of the history that we have with Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the military, according to DoD and Department of Veterans Affairs. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have served in the U.S. military since 1812, where they are among those fighting in the Battle of New Orleans. And the 442nd Infantry Regiment of the U.S. Army was among the most highly decorated units of World War II. They had 21 Asian American Pacific Islander members that won the Medal of Honor in its ranks. So that's really impressive. Another statistic, there are a total of 33 Asian American and Pacific Islanders who have received the Medal of Honor in our nation's history. That's thank you to the Asian American and Pacific Islander people that have won those medals. Thank you for their service. Once again, I thank you and all of you for attending, and Mr. Coe from Fort Hueneme, thank you for being our keynote speaker today. And as a senior leader in our workforce, thank you to Fair Winds Productions for your bringing us some culture and learning about some of the languages and history. Thank you for all of you who joined us on Teams, for the great turnout today that shows the significance of this observance, as well as we celebrate the diversity of who we are, and we want to recognize the accomplishments of those who helped make the United States what it is today. So thank you for bringing the event on. Ed Gingras, thanks for coordinating this, and to everyone for making it a great time to learn more about Asian Americans and Pacific Island and culture. So thank you very much.